Just last month, 5 teenagers were shot at a takeover event in Jacksonville.
Now those chickens have come home to roost with these teen takeovers. Planning a relaxing vacation with your family this summer? Well, before you make those reservations, you may want to give it some serious thought because you could be in for this.
Spring break chaos in Daytona Beach, Florida this weekend as beachgoers ran after hearing what they thought were gunshots.
This incident was clearly social media driven, okay? Let's all go and invade Daytona.
The crowd was there for a so-called beach takeover event, a large sudden gathering promoted online.
It was people crushing water bottles to start a stampede.
Officials say more than 50 deputies were in the middle of the crowd. While no actual shots were fired in this incident, the city of Daytona Beach responded to multiple shootings this past weekend. The sheriff's office reported 133 arrests, with spring break just getting started. Volusia County Commissioner Stacy Cantu.
What is it that makes these events so dangerous?
Because they are organized by promoters and the city is not aware of it.
Just last month, 5 teenagers were shot at a takeover event in Jacksonville.
Follow the rules.
In the meantime, a marketing campaign in Fort Lauderdale doubled down on restrictions for this spring break. And in Miami Beach, officials there say they have already seen success from their approach with 21% fewer arrests as compared to the same time last year.
And what's their approach? Their approach is more cops on the street. This last spring break. So that is, I think, the first time any of us sort of saw something like this. But this is what we're going to be talking about today, these teen takeovers, and really what's causing this, what has gone on in our culture in the last 5 years that has enabled these kids to think that they have the ability and the right to behave this way in public. We're going to talk about it today on Still Not Canceled. My name is Kelly Jackson, and thanks for being here, hopeful patriots. Let's dig in. So I want to share with you an article really quickly first before we get into all the clips that I've got. And that is this article here written by a Tiara Coleman. Basically, she writes about teen takeovers cause chaos nationwide. There was a lot of activity that went on over the Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to get to that. This was published a couple of weeks ago, and what it is there's a lot of speculation that Memorial Day triggers the beginning of summer. And because these kids have nothing better to do, they're going to be showing up in various places, mostly open public spaces where people, I'm going to show you who these people are that are coordinating these things via social media. And they pull all of these kids into one place at one time. And basically the signals that they've gotten over the last 5 or 6 years as they've grown up have indicated to these kids that they have somehow the right to behave this way and en masse in these places. And it stretches resources so thin. Some of the public elected officials, like the sheriff in Volusia County, you saw him in that clip, they're fighting back. But let's go into this article really quick, just a few paragraphs. Restless and armed with social media, unauthorized groups of teenagers across the country have been gathering for so-called teen takeovers. These loud parties can devolve into violence, exasperating community leaders and the police. While adults worry about how to keep the chaos at bay, teens say the simple solution is to give them more to occupy their time. I don't know about you. I'm Gen X. I was told to go outside and don't come back inside just to watch TV. I was told that I needed to go figure out how to occupy myself. Well, this is obviously not an option because it's illegal and it's violent. But these are kids who, well, we'll get into this later, but I really believe that COVID and the culture around COVID helped to sort of, put these kids in a posture where this is very attractive to them. But what are teen takeovers? Most of you probably already know, but in case you don't, in major cities, large gatherings of teens, mostly teens, so from what I understand, it's anywhere from the ages of 12 to 21, have popped up in downtowns, parks, and leafy neighborhoods, says New York Times. These teen takeovers, typically organized on social media and through word of mouth, can be noisy, boisterous, and at times violent. I'd say not at times. Inevitably, they become violent because of the number of kids that are convened in one place. And frankly, because of the culture that the kids are raised in. Most of these kids come from urban cultures. I have to be very careful with YouTube because this is a touchy subject and I don't want to get canceled. Their impact is often amplified on television, especially in conservative media outfits like Fox News. This is true, but it's because they're talking about it, said the Times. And it's New York. City leaders and police have also begun paying closer attention. Anxiety over juvenile delinquency is not new. What is novel about this generation is the role that platforms like Instagram and TikTok play in the speed of organization and the scale of assembly. So when they talk about that, here's what some backstory on it. Some of the panic over teen takeovers echoes worries over wilding in the late 80s. There were these kids in New York. They were called club kids. And they would put on all these really crazy outfits and they would just sort of take over the subway, take over a sandwich shop, take over a restaurant, take over a roller rink, and they would have a party, like just descend on it and have a party. And these were kids, mostly white. They were doing drugs. They were just basically, it was like a moving rave is what they would do. This isn't that, okay? And then super predators in the 1990s. There's a lot of dog whistling about these kids being Black kids who are gathering together in these large groups, and we should be afraid of them. Lawrence Steinberg, a psychology professor who studies adolescent development, said to the Times, New York Times. Of course, they're making it about that. After coordinating on social media, hundreds of teenagers gather in public areas or malls. Fights break out and some are arrested, said the Washington Post. Video clips of the meetups go viral while politicians and residents spar over why young people are behaving this way and what should be done about it. It's because nobody wants to say out loud what the problem is. Violence aside, many youth are going to takeovers because they want a space to meet other people their age and have a good time on the weekends. I call BS on that. The takeovers satisfy a craving for connection in real life, not through screens. Okay, so I will speak to that, but let's watch this other clip first.
Tonight, dramatic new video of Chicago police pinning people down and struggling to quell massive Memorial Day crowds. Police say 53 people were arrested and nearby 3 teens were shot. This 24 hours after investigators say an 18-year-old plowed his car into a crowd of 5 officers, all now in fair condition. The teen charged with attempted murder. 2 so-called teen takeovers in 24 hours. A viral trend sweeping the nation with massive gatherings organized online and unleashed on unsuspecting communities coast to coast, often turning chaotic or violent. In Tampa, police body camera video shows massive fights amid a teen takeover earlier this month. Here, you see the mayhem from above. Authorities say 22 people were arrested as young as 12. Another brawl breaking out at this Chipotle in Washington, D.C. And outside Milwaukee, cars spinning out in this intersection. Authorities last month responding to 12 teen takeovers in one weekend. Now, Chicago officials weighing targeting parents, with one representative proposing charging parents of minors arrested at teen takeovers after the city's 10 p.m. curfew with contributing to the delinquency of a minor, a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to a $2,500 fine and 364 days in jail.
This strategy of potentially charging parents, do you think it would be effective?
I think that it's a start. We need to have a proactive approach from police, whereas they should be monitoring social media to establish where these meetups would be occurring and placing officers accordingly.
One idea as desperation to rein in teen takeovers grows. Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Chicago.
So, I mean, that gives you a flavor for what's been going on. Some of the reasons why we think that this possibly could be happening. I'm gonna go to this clip on Fox News here. These are responsible.
Yeah, I actually go back further than that. I go to 2020 when a lot of this activity in the streets was excused as justice or some kind of activism. It wasn't. And this is obviously different. It's for a different purpose. I don't know if they're activating anything here except for bad behavior. But unlike a lot of times where you see people trying to do things and then escape the law, these people are unafraid of the law. They're going out and doing this and they're filming themselves doing it. And in fact, they want to be on camera doing this because they want to post it themselves on social media. So that tells me that the consequences here are little to none. If you take these kids, you lock them up, or better yet, you go after their parents, then maybe you'll start to see this not become so cool. But as long as there are no consequences and you're actually getting attention on social media, this is not going to stop. You wonder where the parents are, but in the absence of parents, I guess the long arm of the law is going to have to do something. I know this is happening around the country, but it's mostly happening in blue cities and blue states. I don't think there's much tolerance for this in a lot of red cities, red states, where you have a little bit more law enforcement.
That's true. That's true. Of course, I will admittedly say I live in a very affluent area of Middle Tennessee. But quite frankly, we did have some of this nonsense go on down in the county not too far from us. And it was, shut down pretty quickly in, I think it was Rutherford County. How they're planning to sort of deal with this is, and I think I got rid of the clip where Janine Pirro talks about, but Janine Pirro, who is the U.S. attorney now in D.C., she has talked about putting the parents, basically charging them the same as that last video clip showed, charging the parents with a crime if you knowingly understood that your child was going to go and participate in one of these activities and you didn't do anything to stop them, you're going to jail. Another interesting perspective is from the Volusia County Sheriff's Department, who also is dealing with this stuff, and this is how they're going about dealing with it.
First at 5 o'clock, the Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood is sending a strong message about spring break. He's actually suing two women he says helped fuel a chaotic takeover you see here. Thanks for watching West 2 at 5. I'm Lindsay Sablon.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. That takeover led to a large, unruly crowd and pushed law enforcement to its limits, they say. West 2's Pamela Combe talked with the sheriff as he looks to hold those responsible accountable and pursue those possible criminal charges.
The chaos of spring break still fresh in Volusia County.
The word is this: Daytona Beach is closed.
Massive crowds took over the beach, causing chaos, and Sheriff Mike Chitwood says it's time to hold organizers accountable.
If you come in here and you try to hold us economically hostage with these pop-up events that are unpermitted, unsanctioned, we are going to come and get you. Right now, we're coming civilly for everything you got.
With the help of Daytona Beach attorney Aaron Delgado, they filed a lawsuit seeking more than $100,000 in damages from Aaliyah Brooks and Brittany Plummer.
The sheriff says he spent about $800,000 bringing in extra resources, deputies, even a helicopter to try and keep the peace on the beach.
Since then, 5 more lawsuits have been filed, with more on the way as local businesses and even hotels report losses from the chaos.
The barbecue place, they closed down. They sent their employees home, so they lost several days of revenue. If you damage the reputation, if people don't think it's safe to come here, if they don't think it's safe to bring their families here, that's a lifetime to rebuild that. And
the sheriff says they're not stopping with just the lawsuits. They're also working with the state attorney's office to pursue criminal charges.
We're looking at the aggravated rioting statute, because I think when you read that statute and you watch the videos that they posted, to me, I'm not an attorney, to me, that's a riot.
This is just the beginning and a warning to anyone thinking of trying it again. Covering Volusia County in Daytona Beach, Pamela Combe, West 2 News.
6 lawsuits have been filed so far, seeking a combined total in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. Attorney Aaron Delgado says more are expected.
That's true. So from what I understand, the county is suing these 2 women and they're young Black women who basically organized this. They're out of Atlanta. They actually were organizing these events in Atlanta. This is apparently their This is their career. This is what they do. They organize these events. I'm not sure how they make money off of that, but this is what they're doing. It's basically holding society hostage. These kids are now 12, anywhere from 12 to 21 years old, that are participating in these teen takeovers. And here's the issue with that. These were kids that back in 2020, they were anywhere from 6 to 15 years old. Okay, so you've got some of these people who really bought in. First of all, they were pulled out of school, some for over a year. They were put on screens. They were kept away from each other in really formative years where you're learning how to socialize with people your own age. You're learning about the world. You're really, in order to develop properly your brain, you need human contact. God designed us for community. But then you've got these kids who are being kept at home. Many of their parents probably were working. They were at home, at school, if they went to school, and they didn't have any supervision. And most of the last 6 years, so many of our young people have spent so much time away from each other and on a screen. And they have no idea how to behave themselves in society. At least there are kids that know how, but they had parents who taught them. So there are kids that went through COVID and did just fine. And then there are kids who really didn't have a whole lot of supervision or parental guidance to begin with. And then COVID happened. And their parents didn't know what to do with them because they were at work all the time or whatever, or they didn't even have parents. So that's how you get a generation of kids, urban kids, who behave this way. And then on top of that, in 2020, we had George Floyd happen. So what kind of lesson do you think they learned from that? They learned that they were perpetual victims and that anything that they chose to do would be absolutely excused because they're victims, or one reason or another. They've got in, and they know, like, there are people that know they can misbehave with impunity because they know people are too afraid to call them on it because they're afraid to be called a bigot. And we've got to get past that because it has nothing to do. Bad behavior, it's just bad behavior. It doesn't matter what your race is. If you're behaving badly, you should be held accountable for that behavior. And it just so happens the masses of these kids that are participating in this activity and in these behaviors are Black and brown kids. And it puts them at a real disadvantage because what happens when you participate in this kind of criminal behavior? You end up with a police record. That really does things to your future if you have a police record. It's unfair to them to start life this way or to give them the idea that they don't have to go through life and adhere to the same societal rules as everybody else. And it's really a disservice to them. And that's what COVID, part of that is George Floyd, and then COVID, and it all just sort of came together and created this perfect storm. And now those chickens have come home to roost with these teen takeovers. So seriously, the summer's just getting started and everyone is saying, look out, a teen takeover could be coming to a city near you where you could be vacationing. So if I were you, I would avoid places that are open, free spaces. I'd go to Disneyland or Disney World or Universal Studios, someplace where it's very expensive to get in, because then that way the people that are in there with you, are probably people that are not going to behave like that. That's just a fact. There's a reason that those amusement parks put high prices on their tickets. It's the same reason, like when I was in high school, we went to grad night. There was a dress code. You had to wear a dress or a suit. And the reason was because when kids were dressed up, they tended to behave better. It was just a fact. So it's the same concept. The higher the ticket price, the less issues you're going to have with the people who attend your park. It's just a fact. It's an unfortunate reality that we've been conditioned not to say things that are true because we're so afraid of what other people are going to think of us. And it's just facts are facts. Not to quote that very notable conservative, but facts are facts, and not, your feelings don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. They're just facts. But I just wanted to address, the cultural issue. This is a thing that's happening all over the country, and it may be something that you want to keep in mind before you book your next vacation for this summer. Don't want to invest all that money and then have something like that happen to you. So now you've been warned. Thank you so much for being with me today. My name is Kelly Jackson, and I am still not canceled. Let's hope I'm still not canceled after this show. And I will see you soon. Love you guys. Bye-bye.